I'm monogamous with my wife, and she's poly. She treats me completely different than her other boyfriends, and it's hurting our relationship. I am 36 and monogamous. My fiancé F35 is polyamorous. I am leaving her 2 months before our wedding and haven't told her yet. I didn't have an issue with her being poly. Still don't, to be honest. I've dated poly people casually in the past, and honestly we both thought this would be a fling, but we fell in love. We couldn't be apart. We couldn't stop thinking of each other. We supported each other. We carried each other. We moved in together. We want a family. We want kids. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I proposed last summer. I still love her. We have rules. She has 4 pre-existing partners from before we met. It's a out-of-sight, out-of-mind mentality. She tells me who she is meeting, but no other details. Her idea to make it easier for me. He partners don't live near us, so it's once in a blue moon she meets them. Some of those relationships are a decade old, so I've never asked her to be monogamous or to take it away from her. I've met her poly partners. They are great guys, most of them, anyway. As a monogamous person, it doesn't feel great, but I promised to support her, and considering we're engaged, it was working. Why I want to leave her is a few reasons. She has maintained since our first date she doesn't like public displays of affection. No kissing, no touching. Hand-holding is rare. She said it makes her really uncomfortable, so I don't do it. When she's with her partners, though, it's completely different. She straddled one on a bar stool once and rubbed her nose in his cheek, and when they stood up, she rubbed her ass against his crotch, in front of me. Another time we were in a group picnic and one of them showed up, and she kept rubbing her hands between his legs. It's not comfortable for me, but I let it go. She's with me almost the entire year, bar like 4 to 5 days when someone comes in town, but firstly, she's breaking our rules. She knows she's not supposed to do that in front of me. We agreed to it together. Secondly, she never does that with me. Not once. And that's draining. It finally came to a head for me when she wanted to throw a party for us for our engagement because we never had one. One of her partners flew in, and to surprise her, she got drunk. And if we weren't in public, they would have ended up having sex in that bar. They were running their hands underneath their clothes, with me sitting a few feet from them. Our friends kept asking me if I was okay. It was that intense. I had to step outside, and she came after me after a few minutes. She started crying. I tried to hug her to tell her it's okay, and she shoved me away and went back in. We didn't speak the rest of the night. Later that night, she wanted to have sex, and I just wasn't in the mood. I started thinking over the things over the years that have happened between us, especially when it comes to sex and affection. She is into very vanilla sex. I am not. She's the first person I've had vanilla sex with since I lost my virginity. She doesn't even want a spoon because she says she doesn't like it. I found out she performs anal with one of her partners and does other things that are a no-no in our bedroom with them because she says it's just one night out of the year and allows it even if she doesn't like it. She does things she knows I enjoy, but she won't do them with me. I respect her choices, so I don't do them. She's important to me. About a year into us living together, I found a massive dildo in her things. She told she doesn't like sex toys because they feel too artificial, and she doesn't want something like that in her. It turns out that dildo is reserved for one of her partners to play with her because he likes it. It's there for just one night a year when she lets it go. Then I found out she went hiking with one of them, and they ended up having sex in public. We were at a private spot at a beach once, and when I joked about it and she told absolutely not, so doesn't do that. I realized I'm the safe option. I'm just the person who she can come home to. Doesn't need to worry about what happens in public or bed. I only do the things she enjoys for her sake. I don't like being the safe option. I used to be wild before I met her. And I don't understand. If these were people who she has a decade of relationships with, why don't they know she doesn't like any of this? I spoke to her about public displays of affection, not even sex, once, and asked her why she won't do them with me, but she straight up gropes her other partners in public. She got mad and told me I was jealous. Her poly friends told me the same thing, that I'm being jealous and that polyamory is about letting jealously go. Everything I've read online talks about jealousy. Jealous, jealous, jealous. Of course I'm jealous. I'm hurt. I'm human, and I have needs and desires too. Jealous just seems like the umbrella term for an excuse. Does that make me wrong to want to be affectionate with my partner, but I'm apparently the only who respects her likes and wishes? If someone flirts with me, she's immediately on it. She makes it clear to them I'm taken. She will argue and fight if she needs to. She tells me all the time if I cheat on her, she'll leave me. If I sleep with anyone else, she'll leave me. She knows I won't do polygamy. It's not my thing. And I would never cheat on her. The chances have happened, and I've shot it down immediately. I only want her. So I want to end our relationship and our engagement. I love her, but maybe I need to think of myself. I don't want to leave her. What do you think? Update. Firstly, thank you to everyone who reached out. I did not expect that post to explode like it did. I want to keep the update brief, but I don't know if it will be. I'm not in the best place right now. I'll try and respond to everyone who messaged me privately. I received a lot of advice from many people. Most was to leave her. Some people gave me different perspectives. Had some poly community members message me their insight too. Thank you. I spoke to her. I told her I wanted to end the engagement and move on with our lives. She wasn't happy. She said she loved me and said this is what she was worried about from our first date. She said she doesn't want things to end. I told her I need more in the relationship. I needed what she gave her other partners. I told her I'm going to be your husband, your main partner for life. I told her I wasn't comfortable with what she does with them around me. I told her she's not supposed to do what she does in front of me. I told her I've taken the advice of and spoken to some people regarding it, and that maybe being in a mono-poly relationship was just never meant to be. She told me she just wants me. She wants to spend her life with me. She wants to have children with me and grow old with me. For the first time in 3 years together, I asked her if she is saying she is going monogamous. She said no, she wants to stay poly. She said her other relationships mean too much to her. She said she won't open up with me physically in public, or the things we do in bed, until she's more comfortable with me. She said she's known her partners for a decade, and so she's comfortable with them. I told her we're getting married. How much closer to me do you need to get? I asked her why she said yes when I proposed if she didn't feel as close to me as her other partners. She just said, because she loved me and wanted to spend her life with me. Again. I told her it doesn't make sense. I told her I can't do it anymore, and I won't change her, but I won't keep doing this to myself. It was a lot of back and forth. A lot of I love you, and I want to be with you on both ends, but hang-ups on both ends as well. We never really yelled or screamed, but we were both angry and upset and hurt. Ultimately, we've decided to postpone the wedding while we figure things out. The engagement hasn't ended yet. I've moved in with a relative not far from our place for now. I think it's over. I've told myself it is. I just feel tortured and hurt. It's been a few days and she tries to call me once every day. I've only picked up a few times. She keeps saying she loves me and will sort it out. I've had some of her friends, Poly and Mono both, reach out on her behalf. They said they've talked to her about her other relationships and about ours. They said she's really shattered and she wants me to come home, but doesn't want to lose her identity. In the process, she came from a very conservative background, and coming out as LGBT and polyamorous was a big liberating moment in her life. They said to their knowledge she hasn't reached out to any of her other partners and doesn't want to until we know what is happening between us. My family and friends have told me to do what's best for me. My closest friend told me maybe I should move on. He said 4 days a year isn't worth the torture knowing what she does with others, even if she is a great person. Some of my friends never knew she was poly, and they told me to end it once they found out. They were angry that I would put myself into a relationship like this. They said I was torturing myself for something I should have always known was doomed to fail. They all really liked her. We had couples dinners with some of them at least once a month. I know my first post didn't paint her well, but she was wonderful, supportive, and loving. We started dating before COVID hit, and I lost my job and she carried us for months. She didn't have to, it hadn't even been 6 months of dating. Some of her friends told her to drop me, but she said no, and she told them I'd get back on my feet soon. We were quarantined together because she asked me to stay with her because she was lonely, but I know it's because I couldn't afford my rent anymore and she gave me a place to be. She did so much for me, more than I deserved. I've spent every day since I picked myself up trying to pay her back for all she did and still does for me. I know a lot of people have used some colorful words in their messages about her to me on here, but she's not those things. I don't want to lose someone that wonderful. Right now, I just feel like it's over, and I don't want to do anything except cry, and I'm a mess. I'm hoping my head clears soon and that I'll know what to do for me. We said we'd give it a month apart and come back to it, so in a few weeks, we'll see where we stand. As of right now, I'm considering it over. Story 2. Thought he stood me up on our date, turns out he died. Literally what the title says, I'm in shock, RNEDEC, what to say really. We've been on 4 dates and instantly clicked and had so much in common and constantly talked, and he was just awesome. Had sex on our 3rd date, and it was amazing as well. I really thought I had found a good one. And then right before our fifth date, he went radio silent and promptly stood me up at the restaurant. Or so I thought. I thought, oh, well, he probably got something better to do. Thank God it's only been like 3 weeks and I didn't get too invested. But I also really liked him and was hella mad. 4 whole days of me delving into every insecurity I ever had, trying to find a reason he would ghost me like this and embarrass me by standing me up. And then I met my friend, his coworker, who introduced him to me. I didn't want to seem unpleasant or anything, so I just told him to tell the guy I'm not mad that he stood me up, to then be met with the saddest look. Did you not know? Know what? He died. He got into a car crash on the 6th and died. How did you not know that? I was speechless. For days I thought this wonderful guy ghosted me for no reason and was terribly pissed with him. Turns out he got clipped by a reckless driver and died on his way to our date. I don't even know how to react. I'm just so flabbergasted right now. I've known him for less than a month. How does one even deal with something like this? ETA. Thank you all so much for your words and thoughts, and it is incredibly heartwarming for me to hear. And I would like to extend my love and condolences to those of you who had been through similar situations. I would just like to answer some of your questions. 1. I'm honestly not bothered anymore about our relationship and the what-ifs, simply because it had barely been a month and still very much premature, and any anger or resentment I had when I thought I was ghosted has subsided even before I knew of everything, and I don't feel much guilt about that anger, as I know it was justified due to me not knowing of his demise. However, I still feel very sad simply because this guy is genuinely a very great person with such a promising future, that I have grown to respect and root for him even beyond romantic, sexual attraction. So knowing that all of that had been cut short is incredibly heartbreaking for me. 2. A lot of you guys have been asking why my friend would ask me how I didn't know of his death, or why he didn't tell me about the news or check up on me beforehand. The answer is simply that he just assumed I already knew. I gushed about this guy to my friend a lot, and thanked him for introducing me to him, and apparently he did the same about me to this friend too. My friend is his direct superior, so they talk a lot, and even wanted to introduce me to his sister. So apparently my friend thought that he and I have become close enough that when the guy died, I would somehow know. I have never met his sister or any of his family, and never knew about his plans to introduce me to her. I simply told my friend that I didn't know, and that was that. Nothing left to say. 3. I don't plan on meeting or doing anything with his family or go to his funeral, really. I was no more than a little blip in his 21-year life, so there isn't any reason for me to get any deeper. I did, however, send a message to his sister through social media to give my condolences, only as a friend, of course. She thanked me, and that's it. 4. I'm not planning to go to therapy, at least for now, and not for this broke immigrant college student from a third world country. But I've had amazing support from friends. Anyway, thank you so much. Story 3. I took my fiancé home to meet my family and left with no fiancé. I, 30F, got engaged in March of this year to E, 31 Manners, that I had been dating for the last 3 years. It was heavenly bliss until I introduced him to my family. We went home to meet my family, as it was important to him to get their blessing. I didn't care either way, but I did it to make him happy. Everyone was welcoming of him and seemed genuinely happy for us. Before the trip was over, my eldest brother suggested a sibling partners camping trip in a cabin up north to bond and get to know my fiancé away from our parents. I was reluctant, as I typically didn't spend this much time back home, but eventually agreed. The trip was going well, so I let my guard down and decided to enjoy being in the mountains with my siblings. However, the day before the trip was over, everything changed. My sister and her husband were on their 17th argument of the day, and it was only 11 a.m. Her husband stormed out and she stayed there, just crying. I don't do well with other people's emotions, so I suggested a hike to clear everyone's heads. My fiancé suggested that us siblings go so that my sister could talk freely if she needed to. I asked if he was sure, and he stated that he'd just check some emails while we were out. Early on the hike, my sister said that she just wanted to go home. I offered to walk her back, but she said she wanted to clear her mind. We continued our hike, and she went back to the cabin. After the hike, my brother and his wife wanted to explore, but I just wanted to shower, so I headed back to the cabin. My sister's car was still outside, even though it was a couple hours later in the day. I ignored it and went inside. I heard soft moans coming from upstairs, and then a familiar grunt. I went upstairs, only to see my fiancé and my sister together in the worst way. Something broke inside of me. I took a pic of what I saw, quietly grabbed my things, and left my ring on the counter. I left, sent the picture to the family group chat, and turned my phone off. The next day, I had 47 missed calls from my family and 75 plus text from my fiancé. Apparently, her husband got the text as he was returning to the cabin and wasn't so kind to my fiancé. Initially, I felt justified in my actions. I hate it, but I did. However, I now know that even though what they did was terrible, what I did was wrong too. Sending that picture to the family chat was gross, and the innocent family members didn't deserve to get dragged into that. My engagement is over, I removed myself from the family group chat, and I haven't spoken to anyone about it since. These last few months have just felt so empty. I just want to move past this, but I don't know how.